first ever house plant tour that is also of the house, but it's the first time we're showing our house and all the plants and the configurations in it. That's what we're doing. That's the thing. We're doing it. Okay. So as the finale to the 2024 plant streams, we're doing a house tour, and this is the first time we're going to be showing our home and where all the plants live normally. For the plant streams, they were all brought here on set, bit by bit. I don't got a very big space, but this is where you get to see them all in their natural environments. Now, caveat here, there are a bunch of plants that are not in their natural environment, ironically, and that's because of Christmas decorations. Merry Christmas. They are moved from their places and put in other places, so they're not getting proper light and so forth. And I, through the video, you'll see, am going to show you and tell you which ones don't belong there. I'll discuss this one's not getting enough light. This belongs in a better situation than it's in, but it's there for the season. You can already let me know though in the comment, like, that plant will never grow there. It's not enough light. I know, but you can also leave those comments below if you'd like. You can also let me know which names I butcher, because there are a lot of complicated plant names for 100+ houseplants, and I'm not great at all of them. So let me know which ones I screw up, again, down in the comments. I will be linking the living gallery, the Notion board that I have for all of our houseplants. I will be linking that down in the description below. You can view all of the plants there, the updates and all the things that are going on. You can also duplicate the board for yourself, and you can make changes to it and make your own gallery. And if you do, share that down below too. Put that in the comments. Link your own Notion board living gallery. I mean, I can't speak for everybody else, but I want to see. Okay, I think that's all the stuff. I think that's all the things. Let's get to it. Well, there isn't much alive in Reno, Nevada this time of year. That's why we don't spend too much time fretting about our outdoor grow plans. That's why most of the magic takes place inside our home. So that's where we're gonna go. That's what we'll go and see for the first ever house tour on our 2024 plant collection. Welcome to our home, and Merry Christmas, everybody. This is the great room. Stairs that go upstairs, imagine. Kitchen back that away. This is the workout room / guest room. And down that away is my office. Kitchen's in there. We'll get to all of this as well. We'll get to the gallery. But first, let's start upstairs. Make our way back down, yeah? First, we've got our little landing here. We've got the Sansevieria trifasciata moonshine snake plant, named Crafty's Galaxy by the community. And then we've got the Ficus retusa, ginseng ficus. We call it the butt plant. Guess why? And this one is named, appropriately, Derriere. Next, we've got one of our messiest plants. This is the Kalanchoe diagrammanciana, also known as the Mother of Thousands. That's one of our messy critters. And whenever they drop, they make new plants. And this one was called Semper Kitty. Next,
one of our few carnivorous plants. This one was named Wolf's Bane. This is a Pinguicula gigantea. You can see that it's caught some white flies and fungus gnats. So it's out here doing the Lord's work. This one's a mystery plant, something we picked up from the yard. So we're gonna let it mature a little bit before we decide what the heck it is or whether or not to keep it. Here's our first philodendron that we've left to trail. This is the philodendron cordatum, also known as the sweetheart plant. Yeah, the sweetheart plant. And this one was named Wika. Moving on up, we've got our only peperomia at the moment. This is a Peperomia caparata frost, the silver ripple peperomia. We've tried different things in caring for this with mixed results, but we're seeing how it goes in here. This one was named CJ number 2. Next are the rest of our carnivorous plants here. Another Pinguicula gigantea, another ping named Pingu. And this one is a Drosera capensis, I believe, named Gumdrop. This is a pretty fun one. The sundew. Interesting critters, catching bugs. And then up here, we've got water meowlin. This is the Strobilanthes, the Persian shield. And it's not looking amazing at the moment, but normally it's got these brilliant purple leaves. It's not getting enough light here where it is. Like I said in the opening, this is not where most of these plants live right now. These are here because we've got Christmas decorations in their normal home. So all of these are hurting for more light at the moment, and they'll get moved back. Normally this one up here gets much more light, and it also gets huge and gangly. So we'll be chopping this back for the season and let it regrow in the spring. And moving on up, you can see one of our projects here. This is going to be our trailing wall. Our goal here, once we can install some skylights above for some more lighting here, is to have these trailing plants hang down this space and create a wall of green right there. So this is the beginning of that attempt while they're in their impoverished light. But before we get to those, you'll see something else trailing here. This was actually our very first plant. This was gifted to us by friends. This is, some of you will recognize, one of the most common plants of all time. This is an Epipremnum aureum, also known as the golden pothos. And there it is, our very first plant. That's Planty McPlantface. And there's another one over here that's sharing some of this south light from that window. Another one sprawling all over the place. That one over there is another Epipremnum aureum. This is the Marble Queen pothos. You can see that marbling by which it gets its name. This one was named Ambrosia. And this one is, well, running all over the place. We've taken many cuttings from it, but it just keeps on growing. So there's Hot Bride's office. That's Narnia. This one of our oldest plants also, when we first started getting into plants for real in 2021. This is our Dracaena deramensis, the Lisa Kane. And this one was named Enoch, Patriarch. And this has branched up here at the top now into multiples. Pretty cool. We'll move over to here. We've got the Gynura. This is the purple passion plant. And this one was named Woo Girl by the Mafia. Next, we've got the first of several ivies. This is the Hedera Helix needlepoint, named Bonnie. This is another one that we've got trailing down below. Next up, another Hedera Helix. This is the Fiend Finger, much finer little leaves on here. And this one was named Dr. Pamela Lillian Eiley. Okay, and then we'll move on into here. This is the master bedroom. And we'll get to all of that. First, let's cover the master bath, yeah? Hello. How's it going? Okay, bit echoey in here, I apologize. This is a west-facing window, so all of these are getting that kind of light right now. First up, we've got the Colocasia esculenta fontanesii. This is the black stem taro, and as the black stems, for it is so named. And speaking of named, it is appropriately named Spidomite by the community, because this sucker is never free of spider mites. Never. All of this damage is from spider mites. And we'll see how long we keep going in fighting the battle against the spider mites before we maybe decide to get rid of it. We'll see. But in the meantime, here it sits. Here it lives. Next, this is the Sansevieria zeylanica, the wintergreen snake plant, named Serpens antrum. And this one's grown up quite a lot. Quite a lot since its humble beginnings in 2021. Next, we've got one of our favorite ferns and one of the most interesting ferns to me. This is the Divalia humata hiermanii, also known as the rabbit's foot fern, known as the squirrel fern. It's got about a bajillion different common names. We've called it the tarantula plant for a while. See if you can guess why. This one was named Thumper by the community. The rabbit's foot fern. And this is one of the best, easiest plants we've got to care for. It's really great. Next to Barry Potter over here, we've got the first of our air plants. This is the Tillandsia bootsii, the spotted squid air plant, named Bus Driver, so we don't forget our Navy friends. And this one has outgrown its little space there with Barry Potter. You can see the new growth coming in that pushed it out of the size. So we'll have to get a new enclosure for it. Yeah, it's our first Tillandsia. That's it for the bathroom. Let's head back. All right, the master bedroom. So we'll start over here with the monsters. I'm sure you'll be familiar with these. Monstera deliciosa, one of the more common plants that are out there, but we've got ours climbing. So these have grown quite large in our time with them. Our first one was right here. This one was named Balthazar by the community. And you can see its original leaf. Only one of its original leaves left was this one right here. And then we got our climbing. And now it's matured and sized up. It's more to go, as indicated by what these have done. These ones we picked up together. And you can see the feral growth on these ridiculous boys. This one's Gaspar. You can see those air roots running absolutely everywhere as the sucker climbs. And back here, Melchior, the feralest of them all. But they do make for a fun display. Same thing as before. Their normal home is downstairs, actually. So these are not getting enough light here, even though Monstera are pretty low light, all things considered. This is insufficient for them to grow to maturity, and we will be adding skylights to this room as well, hopefully our 2025 project. So maybe they can continue to live there once we've got that project done. We'll see. There's our bed. And you can see some familiar faces from the Goth Garden streams that we did for Plant Streams 2024, our Halloween edition. We've got some of our fake, our only fake plants for our Goth Garden here. But next to those, we've got some of our air plants. The rest of our air plants. Let's see. Here we've got another Tillandsia. This is the Tillandsia Blushing Bride, named Sealy. This one also outgrew its previous enclosure and needed to be moved up. And up here we've got the Tillandsia Tectorum, the snowball air plant. A fun critter. This one was named Delilah. Those are our air plants. And we'll get to the monster next to the Hot Bride's side of the bed over there. First, we'll move this away. More plants that don't normally live here outside of Christmas decorating season. Next of our snake plants, this is the Sansevieria Hanii, the Misty Star snake plant, appropriately named Starmie. Here we've got another Ficus retusa, the ginseng ficus, named Flora Croft. This was actually a woody cutting as we were doing bonsai treatment for the other one, and we stuck it in water to see if it would root, and it did. So here it is in soil, growing enormous. One of our few cacti. This one's named Krang for the brainy looking critter. This is actually the Euphorbia lactea cristata. This is supposed to be the mermaid tail cactus, and you can see the original design there for this grafted plant, this grafted designer plant, but you can also see these growths that have come from the coral cactus on top. So now it's looking less and less like a mermaid tail. Next snake plant. This is the Sansevieria cylindrica, the cylindrical snake plant, aka Wesley Spikes. This one was gifted to us, so it's a new addition. This one we did not showcase in 2024. Guess why? It's recovering amazingly somehow, but this is a Neanthobella palm. We'll see if this one has a return. Next cactus. This is the Schlumbergera truncata, the Christmas or Thanksgiving cactus. And this one was in bloom, really in bloom, back in October of this year. Right now we're down to just the one flower, but this thing was covered in these like we showcased during the plant streams, so you can go find them there. This one was named Hangover Morning by the Mafia community. Ah yes, the Aeonium atropurpureum. That's what this is. The tree house leek. This one was gifted to us by Hot Bride's grandma. It was actually a piece that broke off of one of her plants, and we took it home with us. And so it grew from basically nothing to this, what you see now. And it finally started branching. You can see the new growth here on the sides. That is going to turn into new branches, and this will actually develop into the proper bush tree thing that it's supposed to. This one was named California with a K by the Mafia. That's where it hails from. We'll see what becomes of that. Moving on over, some of our big boys. Over there on the right, these are the Ficus elastica burgundy, or the burgundy rubber trees. We've got three. There's the other two over there, and the third over on that side. These three came together and they were much, much smaller. And they're really tall now, so we'll be notching them here shortly to turn them into proper branching trees. These are very fun, named Ed here, Ed all the way over there, and Eddie over here. So these are really tall and really fun critters, hogging all of the light from everybody else. Next, we've got the Bocarnea recurvata, I believe. The ponytail palm. You guys can correct me in the comments if I get any of these names wrong or if I butcher the pronunciation. I will not be offended. I am not the expert at all the things. Do tell me where I'm wrong. This one was named the Updo by the community, this ponytail palm. And this one has not been deadheaded, as so many are, for aesthetic reasons. So we're excited to see this thing grow to maturity. It'll take a really long time, but I'm patient. Next, we've got the Curio raulianus, also known as the common string of pearls. And this one is appropriately named Pearl. This one was another cutting that we found just laying on the ground, as we've mentioned before with several of our plants. We found this on the ground in a parking lot. And so we grew it from basically nothing. Succulents worked like that. Next, we've got a Hoya, our first Hoya to show. This is the Hoya wyetii. The Hoya wyetii, with those cool black edges on the plant. And this one was named Nepferntiti by the community. It's starting to string along here. Next, we've got another Curio raulianus. This is the variegated string of pearls, and it has definitely seen better days. This one we are rehabbing. It's basically nothing, and we'll see if we can keep it alive. We did not showcase this one on the 2024 plant streams because it was not doing well. It's coming back a little bit. We'll see. Next, Hoya, the Hoya carnosa compacta. This is the Hindu rope. The Hindu rope, named Fumt. This is one of the ones that the Hop Bride had been looking at for years. We finally got one, and it's taken off. It's a long old trailer on here. Then we've got another Ficus elastica. This one is the Ficus elastica shiveriana. Let's see the very, very different color scheme on this than the burgundy ones. And this one's name is Stella, with many exclamation points by the enthusiastic community. But I am excited to see this one grow and mature. Next to that, we've got the Hypoestes, but this is the pink polka dot plant. And when we showcased this on stream, it was much wilder and more feral. It's because those arms run all over the place, and there are about a dozen of them on here before we just chopped it all back down to size, which we like to do once a season. Let the plant sort of reset and be a little less feral and messy. You can see some of the mess back there. Next, the big boy. All right. So what is this thing taking up our entire room here? What is this giant feral monster? This is one of our most ambitious projects because this is a Cyathea sphaeropteris cultivar Brentwood. This is an Australian tree fern. Yes, we're growing a tree inside. It's not the first tree and it's not the last. So this one has been a very difficult undertaking that I have not done particularly well with. This one was named Copfernicus. The proper tree fern here. You can see we've got some moss in here to hold in the moisture. There's some growth on the trunk of this. But this is a very interesting creature. Also known as the lacy tree fern, and not to be confused with the Tasmanian tree fern, which does not have all of that fur looking stuff on it. And this one's much faster growing, but you can see the new croziers coming up. You can see that new growth right here. This one is recovering from pests. Unfortunately, this is suffering from mealy bugs, and it has been for its entire life. So we are trying to keep it alive, but it's been a uphill battle. And that's why there's so much of the tree missing, as we've chopped off the parts that have become too infested to try to rescue. But yes, this normally grows up to 30, 40 feet tall. And we're gonna see what we can do to achieve those sorts of results. You know, maybe not 30 feet tall, but inside our home. We've got it on a stand to give us a little maneuvering room around it. As you can see, it's got so much reach. And also it catches more light when it's higher up like that. So as it grows taller, we will lower the platform that it's on. And that does it for upstairs. Let's move back downstairs. And you can see the rest of the collection. Again, you want to see the rest of it, I'll be linking the gallery, the living gallery Notion board in the description down below, which is updated. You can see all of the care stuff, all the lessons learned, timetables, names, all of it. Make sure to check that out. Here's the next one we're going to look at. This will be familiar to some of you also. This is the Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. This is our most ambitious project of the time. This is on a 9-foot custom moss pole. This was a huge pain in the butt to make. We started as a tiny little itty bitty baby plant, and it reached the top of the pole. Multiple vines. I believe we have 5 vines growing up this. Some of them we trained back down the pole. Others we've just kind of let run feral, as you can see, and they just hang. So, yeah, this one is named Morgan Treeman. And next to it here, on the next pole over, another 9-foot pole, this is another Rhaphidophora. This is the Rhaphidophora decursiva. And that's this guy up here. And this one has run out of space also. This one needs to be extended, so we'll be doing a chop and extend on this one. We'll get a better look at this when we go. A better look at this is when we go downstairs. But this one was named Captain Plantet by the community. Ran out of space, so we moved it over here and also tethered it to the stairs like we did with the tetrasperma with some copper wire, because these can be very heavy, and so we needed to make sure they were secure on there. All right, let's go see what there is to see over here. That's our reading corner. Hot Bride and I spend our mornings over there. Let's go see. Next monster down here. This is the Pachira aquatica. The Pachira aquatica, also known as the money tree. Another very common plant. Just not commonly grown to this size. Not indoors, at least. So here's ours. It started as a braided, dead-headed plant, like most of them are, right here, as you can see. But we're gonna have to do some trimming from this, because we would like to get one that is not dead-headed. So we'll have to make our own cuttings, as those seem to be kind of hard to come by. This one was named by the Mafia community Shichi Fukujin. Yeah. Swing over here. This ZZ is not ours. We are fostering this for a minute before it goes back home to its rightful owner. So we're going to ignore that. This is a really fun one. This is the Syndapsis pictus jade. This is kind of a hard to come by plant, or at least it historically has been. So pretty happy we landed one. We've got this in an aeroid mix, and it's just being left to trail. I'll talk more about that a little bit later. This one was named Maple. This is another one that we are fostering right now. We're babysitting another Pothos. This is going to be going back home to its real family here in just, I think tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow. So we're going to promptly ignore that also. Over here in the corner, this is another fun tree that we are ambitiously trying to grow indoors here. This is a Jacaranda mimicifolia, the blue jacaranda. I know it doesn't look blue, it's just its name though. So this started as a pile of seeds. This was a single seed pod that we picked up from Hot Bride's grandma's house in Southern California. And we've been growing it since. So this has got to have to be repotted here in spring because this is all individual trees that are growing in here, and it's running out of space in a big fat hurry. And that's getting southeastern light right there. Some of the better light in our house, more consistent light in our house. Okay, moving over here. To some of the mess. We've got more of the jacaranda. Here's two little babies that came with it also that we separated pretty early. This one was named Rosie Bonim. And this one is named Brisket. Little Brisket here. And underneath these, we've got one of our plants that isn't doing so hot. This is the Philodendron gloriosum, our only crawling plant. We give it this nice long trough to crawl in, but it wasn't very happy from the start, and then it got pests, so it is not doing particularly well, obviously. So we'll see if it survives winter. We'll see if it comes out of this and keeps going, but if not, that'll be a lesson learned. Next to that, we've got this trailing one here. This was our first Hoya. This was gifted to us by a friend of ours. When she found out that we were starting to get into plants, she gifted this to the Hot Bride. This is a standard Hoya carnosa. And this one was named Katniss Evergreen. Took a little while to get going, but once it did, it started taking off. Next, we've got back here our ZZ. This one is not being babysat at the moment. This is ours. This is our Raven ZZ. This one was named Keith Orchards. And it's a pretty great plant, our proper goth garden representative here. We still haven't figured out perfect conditions for this plant. It's something that's been something of a headache for us, but looking good over there. Next, we've got a fun one. This is a Coffea arabica. That's right, a coffee tree. This is where you get coffee beans. Now, we're probably not going to grow ours sufficiently healthy and well and under perfect conditions to get coffee beans ever, but we like having a coffee tree here because the Hot Bride's a coffee master, and it'd be really fun to have coffee. So you'll see in a bit a little bit more about this plant, but yeah, we got this a while back, and we're working on the conditions for this one as well. This one was named Choco Milk. Next, we've got a Colocasia esculenta Black Magic, and it doesn't have its telltale characteristic black leaves at the moment, and that's because it's getting insufficient light where it is. Some of that is just because it's winter, and some of that is because we've got it back here. You can see it's lost some of the foliage. I got to chop off here. There's some new life showing already. I don't know that this will survive winter either. This has also been an ongoing battle against the spider mites, annoyingly, but we will see. This one was named Stolas. Next to that, we've got an Alocasia. This is the Alocasia macrorrhiza. The Alocasia macrorrhiza. The stingray alocasia. See if you can guess why. So this one was named Rosie by the community. And this is one of the more striking alocasia in its strange shape and its really cool stems and its coloration. It's got a new leaf coming here. This one got thrips a little bit back, which is very annoying, but it's recovered now. And yeah, we've got it on these fairly small leaves so far. These leaves do grow much bigger under better conditions than we've been giving it. And next to that over here, our pride and joy. This is what we on the plant streams for 2024 called the Alocasia plumbea metallica. Now, that will actually need some updating because after much further investigation, we found that this, in its mature form, does not match the description of an Alocasia metallica. It is not characteristic of what you'd expect from that. Rather, it matches the descriptions almost perfectly of an Alocasia metalhead, which is a hybrid between an Alocasia lauterbachana and an Alocasia macrorhizos. So I believe we'll have to update that in the gallery to reflect our new knowledge, but one of the more striking plants that we own. We've got two here. This one was named Aerith, and this one back here was named Perseverance with its one leaf. But yes, these are pups from the mother plant, which we will see in a bit. Then, next to that, we've got the Pachypodium lameri. Lameri? Again, correct my pronunciation in the comments. This one's named Skittles as Mod. Prickly and dangerous is the answer. Prickly and dangerous. This one we've sort of struggled with. This was a gift, and we are not nailing the conditions for this. This is not normally where it lives, but no matter where we've tried to settle this thing, the new leaves come in like this, black and curly and crispy, and we do not know why. So if you've got tea on how to care for this plant, I need all the help I can get to keep this one alive so we can get it to its proper tree size. All right, let's jump over here actually. Jump up to some of these under their grow light here. This one is a Philodendron Warzowitzii, Aurea flavum. This one was called Swamp Thing by the community. And this has also seen better days. This one got pests for a bit. You can see the leaves are torn, and that's because it didn't have proper humidification. So the new leaves, when they roll out, look like this. And they're very compacted, very squished inside the previous stem. And without proper humidification, they tear. These are very delicate leaves. And so basically all of these leaves are damaged for that reason. But we're working on giving it better conditions here so we can keep this one alive. Next to that, we've got one of our newer monsteras. This is the Monstera Amydrium zeppelianum, also known as the Monstera Spider-Man. I believe this is the silver or blue variant. And this one also we've had something of a struggle with. We're not exactly sure what. It's browned, crispy edges. For a Monstera, it's awfully picky. It's been getting sufficient humidification. We've given it good light. We're not sure. So we've lost some of this plant already, though it's not very old. We're working on it. Again, any tips are welcome in the comments down below. This one, appropriately, was named Peter Parker. And moving on over, we see a vine here. We'll get to that vine. We'll get there. But we'll start with the Spathiphyllum, the peace lily. This is a plant that needs no introduction. This one lives back here. It's dropping its flowers for the season. Finally, the last two. It had like 6 of them up, and now they're finally going. This one's name is Bob. Bob here was a gift to us a long time ago. And we've really sort of neglected Bob, about 10 feet from an east-facing window, but here he lives. Up above that is one of the most challenging plants we've ever owned. What a pain. This is actually the very first plant that I ever picked out of my own volition, much to my everlasting shame. This is a Begonia Sophie Cecile. This is the one-winged angel. That's what this is, the one-winged angel begonia. And they're very pretty plants. They're very interesting, very cool. However, begonias, and especially this begonia, is susceptible to powdery mildew. And that is awful. It's kind of the worst thing ever. So we will not likely get any more. You can see the damage from the powdery mildew right here. It's already back. So it continues to live though, continues to persist. This one was named Art the Clown. Moving on over, we'll follow these vines. Some of these vines. This is Edur. This is the Hedera Helix Glacier. The Glacier Ivy. This was our first ivy. It was a tiny little 4-inch pot. Cost us like $5. And we have left it all the way back here on the mantle this whole time. And it has just grown slowly but surely. We're not giving it too big of a pot and not too much care or light, so it doesn't grow too much bigger, because we like it where it is and what it's doing. And you won't see a lot of its telltale glacier coloration on it. Normally the glacier has a lot of white coloration, but because it's so far back from the window, you can't see. A lot of the white is not being expressed. Here's a little bit, but normally the entire plant looks like that leaf. But yeah, it can't afford the variegation right now because of how little light we're giving it back here. Next to that is another ivy. This is a Hedera canariensis, the Canary Island ivy, or at least that's what I believe it to be, as we got this as a cutting from a friend's yard when we were doing yard work. So this is, as close as I can tell, the Canary Island ivy. We like it quite a lot. Pretty plant. This one was named Regina George. Yep. And down below that, one of our sadder plants at the moment. This is another of our colocasias. This is the Colocasia esculenta mojito. And you can tell that this has seen better days. A lot of the colocasia go dormant during winter. They drop a lot of their leaves. And so that's what's definitely happened here. It's also too big of a pot. Colocasias like to be root bound, and this one is not. So we have not done the best job of caring for this. This one was named Tor by the community. You can see the new growth coming in on both of these stems. So it may recover. We'll see. We'll see when we come back around to spring. But yeah, Tor there has seen better days. Okay. Now, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this monster. This, like the one upstairs, similar to the one upstairs, this is the Cyathea cooperi, an Australian tree fern, but it's a different cultivar. This is a different version of the one upstairs. This is our third attempt, actually. The one upstairs is our second, and this one has had the most success. And that's because this one has not had pests. This one is living its best life up here. It has dropped a bunch of fronds, and therefore it is growing. The trunk on these is not a proper trunk. I talk much more about that during the plant stream. So if you want to know more about this thing, go and check out the gallery for a ton of pictures and notes. But the care of these is not intuitive. There are no clear guides online for these, but the answer is constant moisture. The trunk, so-called, needs to be watered every day. Every day. Water the trunk. I don't know why nowhere online tells you that, but every day. It also prefers high humidity, obviously. This one is in 71% humidity right now. That's fairly typical for our home. though the ambient humidity outside in Reno is 10 to 15%, we've got that big humidifier you saw on top of the stairs, and we keep this place fairly humid. You can see all the new croziers coming up despite it being out of season, all those new fronds unfurling. So this plant is super happy at the moment. Super happy. We just need to make sure to keep it wet every day. Every day. One of the neediest boys in the collection. But that's also what I get to sit under and see the view of when we sit here and read in the morning. So that's a very special project of mine. And that one is named Tuesday. Tuesday the 3rd, to be precise. See if you can figure out why it's called Tuesday. Maybe don't leave in the comments what it is, but do leave in the comments if you get the joke why the Australian tree fern would be called Tuesday. Just tell me you get it. Give me a winky face. Okay, moving over to our window here. This is east. We're looking due east outside, out this window. So that's the light that these are getting. This one right here, this was one of the plants I was most excited to get, and then I promptly ruined by giving it too much light, and it burned really, really quickly. This is the Philodendron verrucosum. Now, the labeling from the nursery did not say what kind of verrucosum it is, so I'll have to wait until it's a little more mature to see what kind it turns out to be. But for now, I'm leaning toward it being an Ecuador. Got this striking red backing on these. The light's not doing a great job doing this justice right now. But yeah, this got fried by too much light right away. We already lost several leaves, and you can see the damage on more here. So we're experimenting with conditions for the verrucosum. And moving on over here to our more moss pole plants, we've got the Philodendron bipinnatifidum, the tortum. That's what this is called, the tortum. This was another plant that we were pretty excited to get our mitts on a little while back. They're very slow growing, so we got this very, very, very small, and it's not going to grow very fast up this moss pole. They are epiphytic, they will climb, but it's going to take years probably at this rate for this to get anywhere near the top. This one was named Keanu Leaves, the tortum. All right, the verrucosum up here. This was named Blue Suede Shoes, that velvety texture. Next over here, this, another philodendron, the Philodendron mayoi. This is a fun critter. It started out pretty small, with pretty small, unassuming leaves. It's dropped most of them at this point, all of its little baby leaves, but as it has matured, the leaves have become much bigger, much broader. But this also has really tight internodal spacing on here, so this is another one that will take a very long time to reach the top of its pole. This one, just to annoy all of the plant people out here, was named Monstera deliciosa. Just to upset the plant people. This one is a Philodendron erubescens White Princess. Philodendron erubescens White Princess. And this one, you can see its namesake over here. When it gets proper light, it gets this beautiful white variegation. There are lots of Philodendron erubescens variants out there, and this is one of the ones I was most excited to get my hands on. This one again started really, really small, and And as it's climbing, it's maturing, it's sizing up. You can also see on the petioles and on the stem here, you can see white coloration as well. And that's characteristic of these arabescens. Their colors will extend beyond the leaves in many cases. And this one was named Snunyon. Up. This is another Philodendron verrucosum, but you can immediately tell a difference between it and the other in the other window. Again, the nursery did not have a cultivar name on this, but I'm leaning toward it being a Bosco because of that darker coloration. It's velvet like the other, but you can see that the leaves are a different shape and a different, very different coloration. I'm very excited for this one. This also did not do amazing right out of the gate in the subpar conditions that we gave it. So I'm hoping to see it recover once we get back to a grow season now that it's more established. And this one was named Robert Plant. Moving on over. This is the Philodendron Royal Queen. This was a proprietary hybrid that was made, and it is black. And I love it. Can't get enough of this plant. I'm very excited to see it mature. This one was named Magi Loon by the Mafia. And there's actually 2 vines growing up on this one. Down in here. This one's off of the moss pole, so we'll have to, when the growing season comes back around, get that its own space. That's a big one. That's a big to-do. That was a big acquisition for us. This one, another philodendron. This is the Philodendron serpens. This is an interesting one. Just picked this one up back in summer here. This one was named Cultist Propaganda by the community. This one got pests. This one got spider mites, and I did not pay a close attention to it. I had other problems, bigger fish to fry at the time, unfortunately, and it has suffered as a result. So this is the newest leaf on here. You can see these fuzzy petioles. Very interesting critter. Once this gets established, I'll be excited to see this one size up also. Next, we've got an Epipremnum aureum mandula, also called the Mandula pothos. This is another one that few people have sized up proper like, so that's what we're aiming for with this. This was a gift cutting from my little sister last Christmas, actually Christmas of 2023. And there was naked cuttings that we then rooted, and then we got onto a moss pole. And it has since been named Grace Kelly. Beautiful plant. So excited to see what we can make happen with this one. Over here is one of our bigger failures. Though I would not say it is our fault, it is our problem. This is the Philodendron mame. The Philodendron mame. And though it attached to the pole really quickly and started sizing up great, and it was happy and healthy, obviously something was wrong. I did not know what it was. I did not know how to properly deal with it. It turns out it was thrips. I had never had thrips before. I didn't know what they looked like. I didn't know how to get rid of them. I didn't know anything about thrips. So this was eaten alive. New leaves dropped off immediately. And it took me way too long to get on top of it because thrips do a lot of damage really fast. So here's the new leaf coming around. There's the new leaf coming out. You can already see damage on it, but at least it's coming out. All right. This one was named Ceiling Tiles by the community, named for the action I'm taking while looking for an explanation as to how I let it get that bad. And up here, you see our only other begonia at the moment, the Begonia luxurians. This is the palm leaf begonia. You can see from the leaves here. its namesake. This has been one of a more ridiculous monsters. You can see some of the tethering that's had to go on up here just to keep this plant upright. It is, it's grown very top heavy, very unmanageable, and yeah, they grow to be about this tall, and then I guess they just fall over if they're not strong enough in the trunk. This one's name is Bobbert, and I'm not sure what we're gonna do with Bobbert as the seasons go on here. We'll have to trim it back a bunch and see what we can make happen. And move back over here to the Rhaphidophoras again. On the left here, we've got Morgan Treeman, the Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. Big boy. And next to it, the Rhaphidophora decursiva, the dragon's tail. That's what this one is. And the dragon's tail has really, really huge internodal spacing, as you can see. So we haven't actually lost any leaves from this. It just grows really wonky. And so I have not been prepared to give it a chop and extend, as it did not root into the pole very well. Now that it's done a little bit better up towards the top, we will give it a chop when the springtime comes around. This one was named Captain Plantet. And that does it for the great room. Over here. Great room and our reading room. Moving on to what we like to call the gallery. This is our dining room. And the rain's picked up a little bit. Obviously, we can't put skylights in here for more plant light. So we made grow lights. I designed these grow lights myself and installed them at the end of last year. So we've got a lot of the moss pole critters here. But we'll start over here with one of my favorite plants. This is another proprietary hybrid. This is a Philodendron Dark Lord. This was the base of the plant. You can see I've already done a chop and extend right here. So I chopped here, and I have a second plant growing that you'll see in a minute. But this is the original with its super dark foliage. It's not getting sufficient light back here, go figure. It's not close enough to the grow lights to benefit from them, but we're working on better light solutions soon. This was the original leaf. 2 down here were the original leaves. And it's grown quite a bit since then. And the Dark Lord. This one is named Apothecary Miros. Apothecary Miros. Moving on over here. This one was named Cosa Nostra by the community. This is the Philodendron Sodiroi ornatum, the giant silver shield. This one is not super visible in that lighting. There we go. You can see some of that silver coloration on there. These leaves have not sized up super big. Again, it has not received proper conditions to do so. It was also pretty gangly when we got it. It didn't root onto the pole super well. But hoping to size this one up in 2025 when we get better light. So we probably won't see the results of that until 2026. Next over here, we've got some of our shingling plants. Another Rhaphidophora, the Rhaphidophora Corthalsii. So this one's named Stairway to Heaven. We've got our shingler here. Growing on up. Next to that, we've got the Monstera dubia, named Mike Wazowski. This one, I've been waiting to get a dubia for a long time, and the availability's been really bad. So the one I finally did get was not super happy. It's already lost its top leaf, and the vine was broken off at the top. And that does cause stress growth, so it's actually already branched. That's what's happened right here in one of the old nodes. So this little deformed boy
is actually its first growth. We'll see if anything comes of it as we continue to cross our fingers for the dubia, because a mature dubia plant is one of my favorite looking climbers. Next to that is another Corthalsii, but this one's not named. This one is being gifted to my little sister for Christmas tomorrow, so don't tell her. Shh. There's our coffee bar. This is the Hop Rides coffee bar. We're working on it. But the reason I'm showing you that is because up here we have another Coffea arabica. This is the coffee plant. Again, the coffee tree. This one's named Java Jive. And this definitely is not getting enough light this far back from the east-facing windows. But we're working on better light solutions over here as well. You can see it in this little coffee cup. There's our kitchen. And we'll go over here. There's our watering station. That's where all the water magic happens for taking care of all the plants. A bunch of the accoutrements. There's one of our shelves, display shelves for stuff and things. Let's see what vine growing up here. This is an Epipremnum pinnatum. This is the Cebu Blue. And this one's clearly been left to trail. You see the sort of bluish leaves that we've got here for its name. And the leaves stay small and unassuming. As it's left to trail, it will not size up. These leaves, so this is about as good as they're gonna get. I'll show you why that's relevant here shortly. But this one, the blue, was named Dabadi Dabadai. We've got another trailing one over here. This one is doing a much better. This one is perfectly happy trailing for all of time. This is the Aescunanthus radicans, also known as the lipstick plant. The lipstick plant. This one was named Dragoness by the community. This is one of our oldest plants. We're not sure when we got it or even where we got it. This was before we were cataloging things with our plants. So it would have been probably sometime in 2022, but we're not sure where or really how big it was. We've got pictures of its first repotting in the gallery, but that's about it. Next to that, we've got a giant feral monster, you'll see. This is the Syndapsis pictus. This is just known as the satin pothos, even though it's not a pothos, it is a Syndapsis. This one was named Papa Palpi. And this one has been left to trail as well. And as you can see, it does. And it has run all along the floor. But if it is left to climb, if it is given something to grab a hold of with its grubby mitts, you might see something like this down behind the shelf here. And then it finds a wall to grab. And oh, look. It'll climb your wall. So we'll remove it from the wall at some point, but for now, it's pretty fun on there. So we'll just let it go. Next to that, this was actually our first velvet plant. This is a Philodendron Hederaceum micans. This was another cutting I mentioned before that we had the string of pearls we found in a parking lot. Same thing here. We found this as a broken piece of vine on the ground outside of our local nursery. And we said, oh, why not? Let's give it a shot. We just got a propagation little station. Let's see if we can't keep it alive. And we did. We grew this from a wet stick cutting with no roots. And now it's, well, 7 feet tall. And these don't size up very big. This is about as big as the leaves. And this is about as big as you can expect the leaves to get on the micans. So these, actually, we're not going to be doing chop and extend. We're going to loop this back down and run these vines back down the moss pole and then back up again and see what we can make of it. Next to that is one of the saddest stories. A plant that needs no introduction, the Monstera Adansonii.
unfortunately, this plant also got thrips. Yes, I know, it's in the mix of all these plants and it has thrips. Yes, this is my problem, not your problem. But by all means, let me know in the comments how dumb I am for leaving it here even for 10 seconds with thrips on it. I could always use the reminder. This has been left to grow and mature, and it was doing great. This is 4 different vines, and then yeah, it got thrips. And it's just been absolutely dying. It's lost probably half of its leaves. Already, and you can see the yellow coloration on the rest of these as it is suffering. It's got new leaves unfurling still. It is still growing. Up here at the top, you can see also new leaves. I will be doing a chop and extend on this in the springtime, or actually I'll need to do it before then, and I will treat the plants, plural, when I do that. Next to that is another, oh no, that was named Pumpkin, aka Poofy. Forgot the names of these ones here. And the Mycans over here, again, which started very small. This is Kit Kat. This one was named Kit Kat by the community. Next to that, Surreptitious. And Surreptitious is an interesting critter, and you might recognize some of this marbling on here. Say, wait a minute, we've seen this plant. We have. This is the marble queen pothos, the Epipremnum aureum, marble queen. But this one I've got on a pole, which means the leaves can size up, means the leaves get to mature, because it is also epiphytic. Pothos, if you give them a chance to climb, their leaves will get huge. This one's lost some of its variegation. It'll come back. It'll come back when we do the chop. But yeah, this sucker is absolutely taken off. Been very fun to see it size up. So we'll see what happens with it here in the next year. The next, this is the top cutting of that same Dark Lord over on the other wall. The Philodendron Dark Lord hybrid. This lighting isn't doing justice to just how dark these leaves are. But I'm very excited for this plant. These leaves have sized up. They will get even bigger. They'll get to be several feet long as it grows, as it matures. This one has rooted into the pole really, really well. You can see those air roots just running absolutely rampant all over the place. You can see its new vine coming out right there, and its most recent leaf right here. This one hasn't hardened off yet. They come in this brilliant red. It's the Dark Lord, and this one was named appropriately Darth Sidious. Darth Sidious. Next to that, this is another Cebu Blue, but you only recognize it down from the bottom here. Another Cebu Blue named my boy. And you'll see. We'll see. When they're given the opportunity to climb, we lost a bunch of the bottom leaves here, and that's my fault. See an air root laying down this thing. They size up, as with the others. Even the Cebus will do this. So pretty soon you end up with leaves that are significantly bigger than the little trailing ones. And then, when they get mature enough, they begin to fenestrate. And so these leaves will grow to be several feet long each. And as it's matured up here, you can see the vine has thickened up and the leaves have gotten enormous. So this is another one I'm very much looking forward to seeing the results of. The Cebu Blue. Next to that, actually one of our first moss pulp plants. This is another Philodendron erubescens. This is the red emerald. You can see the red of its vines, its petioles, and the emerald from its green. This is 4, because we've chopped and extended this before. So this is 4 vines growing up here. And as you can see, it's getting pretty good light. It's got this east-facing window over here, and the grow lights up above it. So this is just a feral monster. This is where we did the original chop and extend. So we've re-gifted 2 separate top cuttings from this plant at this point on 6-foot moss poles. And this was the original, the bottom. It's lost most of its leaves by now, as it branched 4 times. And yeah, so we'll do a chop and extend and keep the top cutting this time. That one's named Forbidden Snack. Obviously overdue for a chop. That has been without a moss pole for a while up there. So that needs some help. And over here, not to be outdone, a very exciting plant. Morticia Adams. Yep, very exciting. This is the Amorphophallus konjac, the Koba variant. This is a corpse flower. This is the smaller version of the corpse flower. And right now it's winter, so it's in its dormancy stage. It's in its bulb stage in there, so we have to keep it watered and warm. That's what it's doing in here. So we'll see what happens with it in the spring. And we'll see if this doesn't age well. Maybe it just died permanently and I ruined it. So if you're watching this in 2025 and I make no mention of the voodoo lily, let me know. Let me know in the comments. This here, another really common plant. A lot of people are familiar with this. This is the Alocasia Regal Shield. The coloration doesn't look amazing from here, but that depends a lot on the lighting. This fabulous neon green. This one was named Benzene because when we got this plant, the leaves typically have sort of an oil slick or a gasoline spill look to them, this sheen. And so this is one of our happier Alocasias. It wasn't always that way, but it's coming around. Next to that, here's Mama. This is what, again, we were referring to previously as the Metallica, but what we now believe to be the Alocasia Metalhead, the hybrid between the Lauterbachia and the Macrorhizos. This is one of our favorite plants, and it is one of the most striking plants we've ever seen. And it's also enormous. There's no way to properly show you just how large these leaves are, but we've got one we're very happy with. It's grown quite a lot, as you can see from the stem. It's already dropped a lot of leaves. Starting to repot Orion here into a taller pot so it can start pupping again from these little nodes, so we can preserve the lineage of this plant. It's got several inflorescences here, the flowers. This one's ready to be chopped off. It already opened, but this one hasn't. This last spathe here and spadix gonna open up. But that's why this last leaf here is so small, because it had to compete with all the flowers that it was pushing out. Wow. Oh yeah. It put out about 6 flowers already, and so that's why that leaf will be so small. But yeah, one of the plants we're most proud of. It's not doing its best here in winter. Usually it has more leaves than this, but we'll see if we can't keep her going. Next to that, an Ocimum basilicum. This is a dark opal basil. A dark opal basil. This was a gift because we've had several basil plants, different kinds of basil plants. Hopbri really likes them, and this has been a fun one. These pretty flowers. So we had to give it something to crawl around and climb on because it was so feral, but it's really beautiful, dark foliage. Yeah, she likes her basils. This one's name is Daz. And that's a fun one. Next to that, this is the Philodendron hastatum. The Philodendron hastatum, the silver sword philodendron. This has sized up pretty well. Pretty happy with this. The leaves start out small and not very exciting. We've lost all of the earliest leaves down its aroid mix here. This is named Arthur, by the way. And as the leaves size up, you get these lobes on here, as you can see. This is a pretty happy plant over here in the east facing light again, as evidenced by the fact that it's doing something strange. It's actually putting out inflows. It's putting out inflorescences, which we've never had on this plant before. That would be what you're seeing right here, these little nubs. That is going to be a flower. And that is gonna be a flower. And I believe there's another one back over here. Sure enough. And when those flower, I will make sure to take pictures and put all of that in the gallery. Again, the gallery is updated as we go through our year with pictures and information, and I will link that in the description below. Okay, next, another basil. Mentioned we had a handful of them. This is the African blue basil. This is a hybrid basil. And you can't see a lot of the blue right now. That's the thing that comes around in summertime as well, as the bluish hue on this plant. But it is also super messy because it drops all these itty bitty little flowers all over the place. Yeah, you can see the mess on the floor. And this is just a feral mess. This brought whiteflies into our house, which is a big shame. It's since been poisoned, but annoying to have whiteflies all the same. The African blue basil, and this one was named Avens. Moving on, another climber to our other wall here. This is another Philodendron erubescens, but this is the erubescens pink princess. The Philodendron pink princess. Now, it hasn't received the best conditions, as evidenced by the low amount of variegation, but as this plant matures and gets proper conditions, you get bright pink variegation on these leaves. This was a very, very rare plant just a handful of years ago, and now it's absolutely everywhere now that it's made it into tissue culture. So if you want a pink princess, you can find one. Do not pay more than a handful of dollars for this now very common plant. This is the newest leaf coming in up here. And this was named after a member of our community, Princess Storm. That's a fun one. One of our dark plants. And again, like the white princess, you can see that variegation show actually on the stems and on the petioles here. You can see the pink. You can see that pink all the way up here. Pretty cool. Next to that is another that you might recognize from a little while ago in our tour. This is the Scindapsus pictus jade, except this one is being allowed to climb. The other one was just a trailing one. But as it climbs, you'll see some changes to it. You see this really, really remarkable coloration and patterns on these. Again, kind of a harder Scindapsus to come by, or at least it has been historically. But we like it quite a lot. And now that it's being allowed to climb, it's doing pretty well. It's doing pretty well with the new leaves coming up there. This one was named Yuki. Next to that, we've got Oliver Queen for the green arrowhead. The Syngonium podophyllum exotic allusion nephites, I believe. This is how you say the name of this thing. The Syngonium podophyllum exotic allusion nephites. Same thing, this is a plant that people do not typically let climb, but when it does, it sizes up quite a lot. The leaves won't get too much bigger than this, but that's okay. Like them taking up a little less space here. This one's a little more compact, but this is many different vines growing in this little space. But unlike that one, which sort of keeps to itself, the next example, this would be Icarus. About to drop its oldest leaf here. Icarus, you'll see why it's called Icarus, started out as this tiny little plant. This is a Philodendron Florida green, which is a hybrid between a Philodendron pedatum and a Philodendron squamiferum. And if you see one of those parents, it might look a lot like this. You see the leaves sort of size up from these little bitty babies. This is right here. Little baby leaves. But as it climbs, they mature. And then they mature more. And then they mature more. And pretty soon it's a giant feral monster that takes up your entire room. and then gets too close to the grow lights, so it burns itself and needs to be tied out of the way. Yeah, something like that. So this is the Philodendron Florida Green. There are different versions of the Florida. We just have the green one, and you can see it takes up so much space with the longest petioles of all time. This is the newest leaf. It hasn't hardened off yet. See these big old lobes up here. And you can see the stem patterning here. And you can see inflorescences. This was our first of the climbers to get the inflows like this. The Florida has now put out like 6 of them. It's been quite a lot. This one just opened and is now going to drop off. This one is going to open next, and then you can see another one growing in back there in the back. Wild, feral, ridiculous monster mess. That, yeah, you can see how far out into the room it reaches. Stealing light from other plants. Yeah, the Florida's a lot. The Florida is a lot. Next to that, the Philodendron cordatum, the sweetheart plant, another one that we already covered that we have a trailing version of. This is it, left to climb. Again, you can see how small the leaves were. Little itty bitty baby leaves. And then if you let it climb, this one was named Honeybee. If left to climb and not have too much of its light stolen, the leaves size up to about this. About this. This is another one that we're going to trail up and down the pole here. There's no need to do much by way of chop and extend. With that fuller look, we'll keep doing that. And lastly, one of the plants I'm most excited about. This, named Prince Philodendron. This is a Philodendron glorious. Philodendron glorious. This is a hybrid, another hybrid velvet that we've got between the Philodendron gloriosum and the Philodendron melanochrysum. And I'm very excited at how well this plant is doing so far. Very excited to see it mature and size up. But here is the latest leaf. There's another one unfurling right now, even despite it being winter. And this is a good lesson, is that there's really no such thing as the grow season, so long as you keep your conditions right. So since this plant is kept warm, humidified, and given proper light, it is continuing to grow. Yes, this one is absolutely gorgeous. The video is not going to be able to capture just how great the velvet looks on these and that incredible veining. But this plant has come a long ways from its little baby leaf beginnings right in here. And yeah, I'm excited to see what it does next. These leaves will also grow to be several feet long, about a foot wide. So that's a very exciting prospect for me. And that is the last plant to show you guys in our tour. I hope that you enjoyed. If you've got any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, heckling, by all means, let me know in the comments below.